What's up folks, Russ here. Welcome to yet another installment of The Trail Hunter. Today I'm going to be going over my altitude sickness experience on the Everest Base Camp trek. Okay, so in this video I'm going to be going over the entire trek in sections, just explaining to you exactly how I felt, how the altitude was affecting me throughout the entire trek, all the way from Lukla to Everest Base Camp and up to Patthar. Just before we really get into this video, I just want to point out that everybody's different. The way that altitude works is not entirely dependent on your fitness level. It can be anything from the way that your biology actually reacts to the altitude. So what works for me and what happened to me might not happen to you. You might feel better, you might feel worse, you might be more fit, or you might be more used to endurance walking and running. So all of these factors can make a real big difference into how you feel on the Everest Base Camp trek, especially at altitudes of 5,000 meters or above. The whole way I was mostly absolutely fine. It wasn't really until I got to base camp and Patthar that I started feeling pretty rough. Base camp was pretty much okay, but Patthar was definitely the worst altitude sickness experience that I had on the entire trek. But yeah, let's start all the way from Lukla and we'll go all the way up there from my notes. So every day on the Everest Base Camp trek I actually took notes of exactly how I was feeling in terms of the altitude. So this is going to really help me in making this video, and I think it will be very useful for you guys to know that as well. So day one, Lukla. Felt the air is thinner and much colder than Kathmandu, but no problem at all. So when I arrived, we could see steam coming out of our mouths. The temperature was quite low. You can actually feel the air's thinner as you're breathing it compared to Kathmandu, because you are about 2,500 or something odd meters above sea level at Lukla, but absolutely not a problem at all. Day two, Patthar to Namche was the most difficult part. Totally not acclimatized yet, and it's one of the steepest sections of the hike so far. Legs were so weak and the pace was incredibly slow, regular stops and very tiring, but no headaches. So because Namche Bazaar is about 1 kilometer up from Patthar, you're actually going a really steep hike up in altitudes that you've probably never been in before, and this is the first properly steep bit that you're going to be on. So just because you haven't acclimatized yet at all, I mean you've only been there a day, you're actually not going to be able to function very well on that part. I actually found that the trek to Namche Bazaar from Patthar was the second most tough part of the Everest Base Camp trek in terms of the way my body reacted to the altitude. But you've just got to take it slow, press on, get to Namche, and you'll be absolutely fine. Okay, so day three, hike up to Everest View Hotel was not quite as difficult as to Namche, but the headaches were much worse. The headaches were worse when I stopped moving and my heart rate was lower, but not bad enough to stop. So I found all the way up to the Everest View Hotel. The views actually really made up for the headaches, but I found that when I stopped and my heart rate lowered, then the headaches actually got a lot worse. So I kept kind of moving as much as I could, had really short breaks, made it to the Everest View Hotel. I had kind of like a constant headache all day during that acclimatization trek, but most of the time it was absolutely fine. It was just a mild kind of headache really, and it wasn't enough to get me to stop still. So yeah, that was pretty okay. Okay, day four, hiking from Namche to Pambache was the strongest day yet. Not a problem at all, apart from some mild headaches. Just took it slow, uphill, and was much easier. So surprisingly, went up to acclimatise on day three, and then on day four went to Pambache from Namche, and I was absolutely fine. Strongest day yet. It's really amazing how quickly your body can acclimate to the altitude. So hiking high and sleeping low definitely works. Okay, day five. So Pambache to Dingbache was a piece of cake. No issues apart from a loss of appetite. May have had something to do with the bad food in Pambache. Definitely acclimatising very well. So day four, day five, absolutely fine. I think the trek's kind of generally flat all the way to Dingbache from Pambache, so it wasn't overly strenuous. Maybe the hike was about 3 hours long. You've already acclimatized to that altitude, so those couple of days we just kind of powered through. Yeah, no headaches and breathing absolutely fine. Okay, so day 6, Dingbache viewpoint was a really tough hike with quite bad headaches, and and a very strenuous hike to the summit. Regular rests and a slow and steady pace plus amazing views more than made up for it. So from Dingboche you take a day off to acclimatise, so you hike high up to over 5,000 metres at the Dingboche viewpoint. The views were absolutely outstanding, and I think that also pressed me on a little bit further and enabled me to kind of not ignore my altitude sickness that I was getting, but to just kind of put up with it and enjoy the experience. I don't know how high we are. We were really high up, and talking is actually quite difficult. We can do it though. I wouldn't say I was getting full-blown altitude sickness at this point at all. It's just mild symptoms and you're gonna feel it. Just take it slow and enjoy the hike and listen to your body, take regular rests, and you'll have a really good day up there. Okay, day 7, and that is Dingboche to Lobuche. Totally fine, no headaches, just tired legs, strongest day by far. So that was a really kind of flat hike all the way to a cafe. I think it was, I can't remember the name of the cafe, but it's on the way to Lobuche from Dingboche, and you end up doing like a really flat hike. This is literally about as fast as I can walk. Oh, look at this, just so slow. Can't go any faster. And then after the cafe you kind of go all the way up over some ridge lines, over some hills, and then you get to Lobuche. So another day where it wasn't too strenuous at all. I found once you get to Pambuche a few days earlier, all of the hikes apart from the acclimatization at Dingboche viewpoint are pretty flat. So you end up having quite an easy time at those altitudes. I think these are the reasons why this route is so popular for all people in different shapes, sizes and ages. So yeah, a really good route to do. Okay, so day 8, which is Lobuche to Gorakshep and Base Camp. Woke up feeling completely normal, had a really fast and strong walk to Gorakshep, felt stronger than ever. So yeah, even still acclimatizing very well. The hiking and the exercise also builds up your muscles, so I think the further you go, for me, the easier it got in more ways than one. I feel really good, no headache, still no tablets taken. It's probably the strongest I've been ever since we started this trip, so feeling really lucky. Someone's definitely looking after me, and I think I know who it is. So yeah, Gorakshep, Base Camp, absolutely fine. On the way to Base Camp was totally fine, but when we got a little bit closer and started gaining elevation a little bit more, I did start getting some really quite bad headaches, so we just rested a little bit more. Base Camp Glacier is right there, so close. But I think I spoke too soon when I said the altitude wasn't affecting me. It wasn't earlier, but it is now. And when we actually got to Base Camp and got settled and started having a little look around, I found that the altitude symptoms that I was getting died off and I was totally fine. When we were on our way back to Gorakshep from Everest Base Camp, I actually flew all the way there. I was full of energy, just brimming with it and going really well. My pace was good, I was really focused, my mind was working really well, and we actually made it back, God, in about an hour, something like that. We were so fast on the way back, and we were overtaking a lot of lines of people that were coming to and from Base Camp. So for me, the way back to Base Camp was a brilliant hour's walk, so really good, really good. Okay, moving on, so day 9, Patthar. Didn't eat much in the evening before, didn't sleep well, didn't eat properly at breakfast. Temperatures were minus 20 degrees Celsius, and trekked really hard to stay warm. So on the way up to Patthar, after all of that, I ran out of energy. About 100 yards away from the summit of Patthar, it just hit me like a brick wall. It's literally just up there, and I had to stop. Felt really bad. All of a sudden I felt really faint, I felt dizzy, sick, I thought I was going to pass out. Just taking a tablet. Just gonna like sit here for a minute, because that was so horrible. It just came over me like a woof. Possibly the worst I felt in the entire 2 weeks of that trek. It was just incredible how quickly it came on as well. Like 1 minute I'm absolutely fine, we're trekking. The next minute my whole vision just blurred. It's so hard to breathe. Whew. And I just felt very unwell indeed. So We stopped. I left my auntie's photograph there, which was the main goal while I was doing the Everest Base Camp trek anyway. So I'd completed my objective, but I found I didn't want to keep trekking all the way to the summit and put myself at risk, put my guide at risk. If I knew I was feeling unwell, I didn't want to push my body too hard. The summit to Patthar was 100 yards away. We could see it, we could see Everest Base Camp now. I was totally fine. So I listened to my body. I made a very collected decision to stop where I was trekking, do what I came there to do, and make our way back down. Because of the really low temperatures, my fingers were absolutely freezing. I thought I was going to get frostbite on my big toe. It was just a big decision to make, so I think I made the best decision that I could on that day. I did take an altitude tablet while I was on my way up Patthar, but it was far too late. What I should have done really is spoke to my guide about how I was feeling, that I hadn't had much sleep, communicated all of this information to him, and he probably would have advised that the day before I should have taken a tablet then, so at least my body would have been able to take in the Diamox tablet, and up Patthar I would have had a much more successful trek. I think if I had eaten a lot more and had a good night's sleep, maybe it wouldn't have mattered, but it's just really weird how it works. So yeah, to evaluate this whole video, I think I definitely surprised myself. It's amazing how much your body and how quickly your body can acclimatize to that kind of elevation. Most of the way I was totally fine, but it was just that final stretch with a lack of sleep and a lack of good food and a lack of calories in my body that kind of tipped my body over the tipping point in terms of altitude sickness. Definitely consult your guide about taking Diamox altitude tablets. They can definitely advise you on the best times to take them on the trek. But everybody's different, and the experience that I've had might not be the same experience that you've had. You might be totally fine, you might be even a bit more worse, but who knows? You just gotta go there, have fun, see what your body can do, listen to your body, and take care of yourself in every step that you take. Once again guys, this is the end of the video. If you liked this video and you found it at all useful, then hit that thumbs up. If you've done the Everest Base Camp trek before and you suffered from altitude sickness, let the trail hunter community know in the comments section below exactly what happened, and maybe you can advise each other on how to avoid the symptoms of altitude sickness. Or if you didn't, what did you do and how did you find the trek on your way up there? Also, if you're thinking of embarking on the Everest Base Camp trek, feel free to ask me any more questions if I didn't cover that in this video. Okay guys, I'm going to be uploading videos like this about 3 or 4 times a week from now on, so do feel free to consider subscribing to this video. I hope you find them useful, and as always guys, I'll see you in the next one.